Greetings, Guardians. My name is Byfear. So, we hear a lot about the Cloud Arc, but what is the Cloud Arc, and how does it work and all that? Well, sadly, Rohan does a terrible job at explaining it in the campaign.
We need to be looking at the bigger picture. We want to protect the Veil. We first and foremost need to protect the Cloud Arc.
Rohan, I think we're still a little fuzzy here. What exactly is the Cloud Arc?
It's our city's network, our infrastructure, our people, our defenses. Everything depends on it.
And what we're doing now is stopping the Vex from siphoning energy from the Cloud Arc's reactor. We do that, the Veil's safe, the Neomuni are safe. Bang bang boom. Stargaritas on Rohan.
Make your way to the Cloud Arc reactor. We'll head to the central power junction. Once you cycle the system, we'll be able to return power to the reactor.
We're on it.
So the Cloud Arc is basically everything. Yeah, that really does clear it up, doesn't it? But it's not impossible to glean some truth from all of this. Today we're going to be talking about the Cloud Arc, and in particular we're going to look at the experience of what it's like inside the Cloud Arc. And thankfully, the lore from the citizens of Neomuna is a lot more helpful than everything that we're hearing out of Rohan as far as explaining that is concerned. Okay, so I'm sure that some of you have at least a vague grasp on what the Cloud Arc is, but let's go ahead and explain it from the top. The Cloud Arc is based off of the power of the Veil. The Veil is integrated into the Cloud Arc, and as a result, the systems of the Cloud Arc architecture are described as organic, as opposed to digital by the citizens of Neomuna. This means that they're very different from a normal computer and are probably a whole lot more sophisticated, advanced, and, well, capable of some interesting things if they are linked to the Veil and if everything to do with the Veil and psychic thought is correct. The Cloud Arc itself is described in the Last Days lorebook as a digital space in which the citizens of Neomuna can safely exist. Access to the Cloud Arc is achieved through linking to it using a pod of sorts, or in some instances, just a chair with a lot of electronics. This is explained a little better by the first and third entries of the Last Days lorebook. The first entry is not what I'm going to read, because it's actually something which is easier explained. It's just the perspective of a teacher who is describing how it works to a classroom of children. Whenever the citizens retreat en masse into these larger pods, it's one of these moments at which you will see them suddenly all venturing into stasis pods of sorts that manage all their waste and provide appropriate nutrition, etc. And it just means they can inhabit the Cloud Arc for longer. So yeah, citizens of Neomuna can inhabit the Cloud Arc for a far longer time. However, the third entry of the Last Days lorebook tells us a little bit more about how the individual experiences of citizens within the Cloud Arc can be kind of customized. The description is a little bit metaverse-y in the sense that people can select avatars to represent themselves within digital spaces, and God, I hope this is not as cursed as Mark Zuckerberg's rendition of the whole thing. We have enough grimdark nonsense within the world. The third entry is worth reading to give a better idea of this, and that entry reads as follows. I warn you, by the way, it's got one of the greatest starts to a lore entry that I've ever read. Found his tits, Tino. Callie snorted in disgust. The virtual briefing room was just as drab as their physical one had been, by design, and it had heightened the outlandishness of his avatar choice. I'm not going to talk to you if you're going to be a mandala. It gives me a headache. This is the future, and you're not my supervisor. She waved him off and turned back to the schedule with the other medtechs. How do they expect us to receive this many people in one shift? Tamia pulled a copy of the schedule file and integrated it into her arm. Half the staff were already taking advantage of the transience of virtual tattoos to keep important notes accessible. Tino perked up at the chance to gossip. You didn't hear? Over on Wakeside, they had an anaphylaxis event last shift. Some chucklehead forgot to tell them about his shellfish allergy. But the new Cathaspin inhibitors are oyster-derived. Exactly, Miku confirmed. Her avatar hung slack. They pumped him full of deep sleep and he puffed up like a fugu. Puked everywhere. Glad I was only there on drone duty because the smell must have been a nightmare. Tino brought up the video feed. Why do people think we even ask all these questions? That's enough. Bijan settled into a virtual chair at the briefing table. The supervisor's cold glare survived Cloud Arc transition unaffected. People are scared, and they forget things. It's part of being human. Do your jobs like professionals. But we were already behind, Chief, and then people like this slow it down for everyone else. I get the frustration, Tamia. Bijan pulled the schedule apart into their respective assignments. But we're medical technicians. We're the stability they need. You wear your empathy first. Good call, Chief, Tino piped up. Speaking of, Tino, you can be math on your own time, but while we have 5 million scared patients looking for reassurance, keep your damn face on. So one can dramatically alter one's own experience within the Cloud Ark. This is something that's visible not just from Tino wearing the mandala, which is a symmetrical pattern of sorts that you can find as an avatar for his face, but also you can see it by the note-taking that people were doing by creating transient virtual tattoos. Truly customizable avatars in this sense mean that a digital world is, it's a lot more liberating in a certain sense, because you could just get rid of that stuff whenever you wanted and change as you needed to. But there's more to it than that. It doesn't just stop there. There are layers to all of this, and they're not immediately perceptible. Yeah, of course, you can exist in a digital world and you can change how you look as a result, but the experience goes even deeper than that, and that is adequately displayed when you dive deeper into the Cloud Ark systems themselves, and that is something that has been done extensively by a user who goes by the name Photon. I say user by the name of Photon because this person clearly exists so deep within the Cloud Ark on a regular basis to the point where it is more representative of their reality than the outside world. This might seem dystopian at first, but the Cloud Ark isn't your typical computer system, I'd think. Within the Cloud Ark, it's clear that it isn't just a digital footprint in front of you that you are seeing and not truly interacting with. Whole worlds can be built and even felt within the Cloud Ark. And there's a strange degree of liberation that isn't accessible from the outside. Photon's experience of the Cloud Ark is one that is truly anything they choose for it to be. And I think it gives us the best insight yet into what it's like to be linked into the Cloud Ark, especially in those deeper layers, which are probably even more deeply integrated into the Veil. Take a listen to the last entry of the Last Days lorebook from Photon's perspective. Filaments of data stretched across infinity, reality interwoven into silken threads. And Photon drifted lazily, mingling the data that defined objective existence with subjective perspective. Reality frayed in the deep Cloud Ark and took down the border between self and code with it. File requests felt like ants on her skin, and now, with lockdown, she could stay here whenever she wanted, without any of the messy needs of material reality. No bio breaks or excusing herself from dinner invites. She stretched and composed herself, turning her perception back toward the shallows, where data shadows cast the impression of streets and buildings in a familiar landscape. The norms stuck to it like a bad faith, but it's also where the games lived. She opened her command prompt, selected an avatar and gender for the day, and turned sideways back to the streets and plazas of the shallow Cloud Ark. More shallow than ever, he realized. Recreations of storefronts, furniture, and plants from the material world intruded, spacing out the avant-garde designs created by dedicated Arkheads. The city council rezoned much of the main avenue to make the transition easier. But what was the point of a new frontier if you brought the old world with you? Oh dear, that's not right. The sound of barely restrained panic came from a short avatar nearby, mostly human, save for a hideous skewed left brow and cheekbone. Hey, no bothers. Want an assist? Photon approached the confused visitor. The distortion looked painful. I don't know what I did, and I can't fix it. All right, deep settles. We'll patch you up. He didn't look like he understood, but his simulated breathing, founders who still breathed, slowed. Photon opened up the man's avatar settings and studied. No ken how you managed, but you unlocked your advanced avatar settings. Can you fix it? Not even a grind, Gildy. He reloaded the newcomer's last autosave, and the avatar reverted to a standard human appearance. crunch some time before you use this menu, but if it happens again, just push here. Thanks, Gildy. All green, Photon said. Good to remember, we all start somewhere. Photon perhaps shows us that living in the Cloud Ark is a little bit like living in a nested copy of reality, but a reality that we're free to control and morph as we please. Needless to say, this is seemingly only possible with the power of the Veil. It's something which was remarked by Blue Jay, this idea that there are whole worlds within the Veil, and that it will be able to open the way for us. Of course, this is to say nothing of true existence within the Cloud Ark. Maybe this is the point at which it's accurate to state that yes, Rohan was right when he said it is everything. If you can do and be whatever you want within the Cloud Ark, then, well, maybe it's understandable why Rohan said that it was everything, including infrastructure and people. But that's all from me for today. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you want more Destiny content, go ahead and be sure to hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. But, as per usual, know that your viewership as always is quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Rodacia Arastra. I'll see you, Starside.